What if the story you've been telling yourself isn't the whole story? We often get so used to the narrative of our own lives, the routines, the responsibilities, the same four walls, that we stop questioning it. But what if you could step back just for a moment and see the pieces of your life not as fixed obstacles, but as possibilities waiting to be arranged? That's what we're going to try to do together. This isn't about a sudden dramatic overhaul. It's about seeing the same picture in a new light. Let's get started. The first verse immediately sets a tone of hardship and defeat that is the complete opposite of the song's often misunderstood triumphant title. It doesn't start with birth, but with being born down, which is a powerful play on words. This isn't just about a location, it's a state of being. To be born down means you entered this world already at a disadvantage, in a place that offers no hope, a dead man's town. This suggests a post-industrial town where the factories have closed and the American dream has died. There's no opportunity here, just decay. The next line, "The first kick I took was when I hit the ground," is a brutal and brilliant piece of writing. We usually think of a baby being born and gently cared for. Here, Springsteen flips that idea on its head. The very first experience of life outside the womb isn't comfort. It's a kick, a blow. This establishes that his entire life has been a series of hardships, starting from literal second one. The world isn't welcoming. It's abusive. He then develops this idea with a devastating metaphor. End up like a dog that's been beat too much. This comparison to a abused animal strips away any sense of glory or pride. It conveys a feeling of being powerless, victimized, and conditioned by pain. It's not just one bad event. It's a sustained pattern of abuse that breaks a spirit. This isn't the language of a patriotic anthem. It's the language of trauma. The verse concludes with the long-term psychological effects of this life. Till you spend half your life just covering up. This is the real core of the verse. The covering up refers to the shame, the pain, and the failure he's been taught to feel. He has to hide his true, battered self behind a facade. In the context of the entire song, which is about a Vietnam veteran, this covering up is what he has to do upon returning to a country that doesn't want to see his pain or acknowledge its role in causing it. He has to pretend he's okay, that he's proud, that he's the born in the USA hero everyone wants to see, when inside he's the beaten dog from the dead man's town. The verse masterfully establishes a cycle of pain, abuse, and the immense emotional labor required to just survive it. The chorus is one of the most misunderstood elements in all of popular music because on the surface, it reads like a straightforward, chest-thumping declaration of national pride. Four simple lines, just repeating the title. But when you place it directly after the verses that detail a life of hardship, neglect, and betrayal, its meaning completely flips. This isn't a celebration, it's an accusation. The phrase, "born in the USA," isn't a boast. It's the entire basis for a broken promise. It's the reason he was sent to war, the reason he was expected to silently endure his suffering, and the only identity a system that failed him has left him with. He's stripped of everything else, his dignity, his future, his hope. So all that remains is this bare biological fact of his birthplace. The repetition of the line is crucial. It's not being repeated for emphasis in a positive way, like a cheer. Instead, it feels like a mantra of frustration, a fist pounding on a table. Each repetition sounds less like a statement of fact and more like a bitter reminder, both to himself and to the listener. He's saying, "This is my identity according to you. This is all you see. This is the reason for my entire fate." The addition of the word now on the final line is particularly interesting. It doesn't add a sense of a triumph. It adds a sense of immediacy and confrontation, as if he's standing there demanding that you acknowledge this fact and all the weight it carries. It's a challenge, not a celebration. In essence, the chorus acts as the song's ironic anchor. The verses tells the complex, painful story, and the chorus reduces that story to the simplistic, nationalistic label that society uses to ignore the complexity. The genius of the song is this tension. The chorus sounds like a patriotic slogan, but the context provided by the verses reveals it to be a cry of anguish from someone who was given a promise simply for being born American, a promise that was never kept. It's not about pride. It's about the gap between the national myth and the crushing reality for those on the margins. This verse is where the story moves from a general life of hardship to the specific life altering event that defines the narrator's trauma, being sent to the Vietnam War. It brilliantly captures the lack of choice and the brutal simplicity of the path laid out for many working class young men at that time. The verse starts with a classic, almost cliche scenario: "Got in a little hometown jam." This phrase is deliberately downplayed. It suggests a minor scrape with the law, a dead end future, or just the general trouble that comes from having no opportunities. It's a problem that, for many, would be solved by a stern talk or community support. But for him, the consequence is catastrophically disproportionate. There's no trial, no reflection, no alternative offered. The system's response is immediate and mechanistic. "So they put a rifle in my hand." The word "so" implies a cold, logical cause and effect that is anything but logical. A small town problem leads directly to being handed an instrument of death. The next two lines complete this chillingly efficient sequence. "Sent me off to a foreign land" removes any sense of personal agency. He is not a soldier who enlisted with a sense of duty. He is an object being sent off, a piece of cargo shipped to solve a problem he doesn't understand. The final line, "to go and kill the yellow man," is one of the most raw and intentionally uncomfortable lines in the song. Springsteen doesn't use politically correct or sterile language like "the enemy" or "communist forces." He uses the dehumanizing, racist language that was undoubtedly common among scared, young draftees and that reflects the brutal reality of war. This phrasing strips away any pretense of noble cause or patriotism. It reduces the complex geopolitical conflict to its most horrifyingly basic, personal, and ugly truth. He was sent to a strange place to kill people who looked different from him. This line forces the listener to confront the visceral, human horror of war, far removed from the abstract ideas of flags and national honor. This verse solidifies the song's central argument that the protagonist is a pawn used by his country for a brutal purpose and then discarded, his trauma being the direct result of having nowhere else to go but into the machine of war. This verse is the crushing payoff to the story set up in the first two verses. It answers the question of what happens to the beaten dog, the pawn sent to war, when he finally comes home. The answer is a masterclass in depicting institutional abandonment and the cold shoulder of a country that used him up. The verse starts with the hope of return. Come back home to the refinery. This is a key detail. The refinery is the kind of industrial blue-collar job that was the backbone of many working-class towns and the expected future for men like him. It represents the stable life he might have earned through his service. But he's immediately met with a passive-aggressive brush-off from the hiring man who says, "Son, if it was up to me." This single phrase is loaded with empty sympathy and shifted blame. It translates to, "I pity you, but I can't help you, and the decision is out of my hands." It's a corporate, bureaucratic rejection that offers a pat on the head instead of a job, highlighting that the economic opportunities he might have fought for are closed to him. The narrator then turns to the one place specifically designed to help him, the Veterans Administration, VA. This is the institution meant to be a safety net for soldiers who did what their country asked. But instead of help, he gets another condescending and utterly useless rhetorical question. He said, "Son, don't you understand now?" This line is arguably more devastating than the rejection at the refinery. The hiring man at least pretended to care. The VA man's response is a dismissal that implies the veteran is a fool for expecting help. The question, "Don't you understand?" suggests that the narrator should have known better than to expect support. It implies that his plight is his own fault for not understanding how the world works, that the promise of care was a lie he should have seen through. This completes the cycle of betrayal. He was borne down, kicked from the start, used as a tool for war, and is now being told by the very systems built to support him that he is on his own. The verse captures the profound isolation of being failed by every single institution that was supposed to be there for him, leaving him with nothing but the hollow fact of his birthright. This verse shifts the focus from the narrator's personal suffering to a broader, even more tragic loss, deepening the song's sense of meaningless sacrifice. It introduces a brother, which could be a literal sibling or a close comrade in arms, who fought in one of the war's most infamous and brutal battles, Kisan. By naming a real place, Springsteen grounds the story in historical horror, moving it from a general tale of hardship to a specific tragedy. The line, "Fighting off them Viet Cong," has a certain greedy, almost simplistic authenticity to it, echoing the language a soldier might use to describe his duty. It sets up what seems like a clear narrative. There was a fight, there was an enemy, and there was a cause. But the next line, "They're still there, he's all gone," is a devastatingly efficient critique of the entire war. In just 7 words, it exposes the futility of the conflict. The Viet Cong he was fighting are still there, meaning the sacrifice ultimately changed nothing. The political objective wasn't achieved. The enemy wasn't vanquished. Meanwhile, the brother is all gone, a phrase that is much more final and hollow than "he died." It speaks to a complete erasure, a total loss that stands in stark, pointless contrast to the fact that the conflict continued. His death purchased no victory and secured no peace. The verse then makes this tragedy deeply personal and human, not just a political point. The brother, had a woman he loved in Saigon. This detail is crucial. It reveals that amidst the chaos and violence, he had forged a connection based on love and humanity, a stark contrast to the impersonal duty of killing the yellow man. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a man with a personal life and affection that transcended the war. The final line, "I got a picture of him in her arms now," is the verse's emotional anchor. That photograph is a frozen moment of happiness and love that now serves as a painful relic. It's proof of what was lost, not just a life, but a potential future, a relationship, and a humanity that the war utterly destroyed. The narrator is left holding this picture, a keeper of a memory that his country has likely forgotten, symbolizing the personal, intimate cost of a national failure. This verse brings the narrator's journey full circle, trapping him in the same bleak landscape where he started, but now with the added weight of a decade of lost time and accumulated despair. The opening lines, "Down in the shadow of the penitentiary, out by the gas fires of the refinery," are a powerful piece of imagery that defines his world. He isn't just near these places, he lives in their shadow. The penitentiary symbolizes a life of limited options and the constant threat of falling into the system, perhaps echoing the hometown jam that sent him away in the first place. The gas fires of the refinery are the hellish glow of the only industry left, the same place that wouldn't hire him. Together, they paint a picture of an industrial purgatory, a place that is both a prison and a wasteland, offering no escape and no sustenance. The line, "I'm 10 years burning down the road," is brutally eloquent. It's not just that 10 years have passed, it's that those years have been spent burning down, which suggests a slow, painful consumption of his life, like a fuse burning out. The road implies a journey, but it's a journey that has led him in a circle right back to where he began, only more worn down. He hasn't moved forward. He's just been burning up time, energy, and hope. This culminates in the final, desperate declaration, "Nowhere to run, ain't got nowhere to go." This is the ultimate expression of being trapped. Nowhere to run suggests there's no escape from his circumstances, his past, or his pain. But the second half, "ain't got nowhere to go," is even more profound. It means there is no destination, no better place on the horizon, no goal to strive for. All possible paths are closed. This is the final state of the beaten dog from the first verse. He has spent his life covering up, but now he's reached a point of exhausted honesty. The systems have failed him, the war broke him, the economy rejected him, and he is left spiritually and physically stranded in the shadow of the very structures that were supposed to support a life, but instead only serve as monuments to his dead-end existence.